Greetings everyone, my name is Zetterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Mega Man Maker. During the last part, I covered 9 levels that I found by using the random level option. So in this part, I'll hopefully be covering 5 or 6 viewer's mid-levels, starting out with this one. The Primary Use of All Weapons Part 3 by Mega Man 2407, 6 plays and a score of -2. As always, if you want one of your levels to be featured in a part like this one, please leave the level name and level ID in the comment section below or direct message me on Twitter. And as always, the full disclaimer of this entire LP series is linked in the description below. Also in the description are the timestamps for every level that I cover in each part. So in this case, from what Mega Man 2407 told me, all the weapons that will be tested here, or at least most of them, will be from Mega Man 3. Or rather, the new weapons that were added in version 1.1, or at least most of them. Because the Eye Slasher wasn't in the original version of the game, and that's a Mega Man 1 weapon. So for this first segment, we need to use the Hard Knuckle. And if we were careful enough, we could have hit those items and dropped the extra life. This one we gotta be a bit more careful because we need to direct it upwards and downwards following this gauntlet in order to hit something. Like in this case an M-Tank, but I missed it. And we can do stuff like this in order to get the large energy pickup. This is a clever way of teaching us the usages of the Hard Knuckle and other special weaponry. So this is a nice series of tutorial levels, that's for sure. And it isn't too hard because even if you miss these jumps, you aren't punished as much. It's not like you're forced to restart part of the stage. Nah, I don't think I need the E-Tank. These stages are always quite easy, and every checkpoint has 2 or 3 large weapon energy drops. Okay, this one we're going to be using the Surf Snake. And is crawling on wall properties, although it's a bit buggy in comparison to the original one in Mega Man 3. They can only crawl about 3 corners, I think. How do I make this jump? Aren't you gonna shoot me? Thank you. How do I get across here? Oh, I think I know it. And I think we need to use the top spin now. And completely miss. This seems rather odd because the top spin wasn't introduced properly in the stage. Unless I'm missing something, because there's no way to get across there without using the top spin. Or damage boosting. That always works too. Damage boosting time. I don't see any other way of doing it other than using more precise topspin jumping, but as you saw there, you have to be careful so you actually fall on the crystal. This section will teach us usage of the needle cannon, which unfortunately, as I said in the previous few parts, it's kind of underpowered. If the needle stayed embedded on enemies up to 3 or 4, and when you switch special weapons, it would be a lot more powerful, similar to how the Eye Slasher freezes enemies in place, and the freeze effect still stays in place, even if you switch special weapons. I don't get what's so funny about the top spin. I guess that was for the needle cannon. But to be fair, top spin was kind of a joke back in Mega Man 3. Now it's actually somewhat useful. Gotta be a bit careful here so I can make the jumps without dying. That was really close over there. And I have to keep going to the right over there, otherwise I'll get embedded into the ceiling. At least the stage has some semblance of challenge, and each of the areas are getting more difficult and more difficult over time, so that I do approve of. Plus the checkpoint placement is fine as well. Like I said, this is a nice tutorial stage, and honestly I would say that Part 1 and Part 3 of this series are better than Part 2. After 8 failed attempts off screen, I finally made it. That last ceiling segment was a bit of a problem, especially with this engine's awfully non-generous collision detection, and how sometimes the octopus batteries can end up ledging you into the wall or launching you into the wall. That's one thing I'll complain about this stage. The previous needle cannon segment and the segments preceding the topspin segment were a lot easier than the topspin segment. It just felt like a huge difficulty spike, especially near the end. So you might want to work on making it a little bit easier. Or have a skip or something. Now time for the magnet missile. I want a damage boost, please. That's one way of skipping the segment in its entirety. And suddenly we don't have a background for whatever reason. And now we fight Iceman using the Ice Slasher, I guess. Oh no, it isn't Ice Slasher, it's just the fact that it's his weakness. Not weakness, I mean, it's the only thing we can use in order to collect the extra lives there. Which we probably will need, especially with how damaging he is. At least I have the charge shot in order to make things a bit easier. Alas, that's the end of all primary use of all weapons Part 3. A neat tutorial stage on teaching us the usage of several special weaponry. Although, as I mentioned, there was kind of a difficulty spike with the topspin segment that should be worked out. None of the stage was as difficult as that one part of the level. So second up is Fragile Man by Parasect, 16 plays and a score of 5. You may remember Parasect as being the creator of Crash Me Some Slack, which I played way near the beginning of this entire LP series. So let's see how they improved. They said it was a custom Roadmaster stage, and... okay, let me see if there's anything down here. Darn, I thought that enemy was kind of like a secret telling you or guiding you to more astute players that there's something below there, but no, it's just a trap. This seems to be more of a traditional level because we have access to only really the Mega Buster Charge Shot, the Mega Man 4 Charge Shot that is, as well as the Crash Bomber. So we have Lyric, Shield Attackers, and the Metars. That's a neat way of introducing all the shield attackers. As well as the spinning tops, as well as the petite snakies. That's a sneaky way of placing mets, that's for sure. Now we have a more difficult configuration of the spinning tops. First we were introduced to them in a safer environment, now in a more difficult one. And by taking the upper route we can skip past the gumball machine, or gachapon. Now we have to face enemies while on spinning tops. Although they keep going down immediately, so they're like instantaneously falling platforms, or the gyro platforms. And it is slowly getting more difficult, so this is definitely a traditional style level. It is definitely ramping up the difficulty properly, and the checkpoint placement is good too. And we're introduced to the falling enemies as well. Now we're forced to fight the gachapons. I guess that's why we got the Crash Bomber, in order to make the gachapons a little bit easier to deal with, or quicker. Oh boy. I thought I wasn't gonna make the jump because I ended up being too much to the left. Oh, that was a bad idea. Make sure not to blow up those holes then. Well, that's a neat way of introducing that gimmick now. Now we have force beam barriers that we shouldn't destroy necessarily. But there are a lot of weak enemies that force us to use our special weapons, or repeatedly attack enemies. Now I have to be careful so we don't end up getting hit by one of the shield attackers and knocked into the abyss like what happened here. At least there's an abundance of extra life energy and weapon energy. There probably should have been a checkpoint a little bit closer to the last point though, because you do have to repeat a segment, but I guess it's trying to mimic the classic Mega Man style anyway. This is where a checkpoint would be, so it's a minor nuisance. That actually took 7 attempts off screen. That last jump keeps throwing me off, and unfortunately, it kinda brings down the stage for me. Maybe if there's one more top or if it was a bit closer, and the height you needed to make wasn't so high, or maybe one block lower. Or if there was one more checkpoint nearby, because it's getting a little bit of a nuisance to repeat that segment over and over, the preceding segment. I do like that there's a checkpoint right here, which I do approve of. And there's the jump button failing to register. That's why I don't like these segments in Mega Man Maker. Strangely enough, well, probably because it doesn't exist as much in MKIII 2. I never had those issues in MKIII 2, even though they're based on the same engine. That was on me. If this keeps happening, I'll have to do more jump cuts on this stage, which is quite sad. Because I like the stage's idea, it's the fact that the engine is letting the stage down. This would probably be done better in a more customly designed engine, maybe a Mega Engine itself. I made it this time. Once again, the engine's limitations and downfalls really bring down the stage. That last segment alone took 16 attempts to get working. Thankfully there's a checkpoint there, but it really brings down the stage for me sadly, and I really like this stage, but I think it would be done better in a more customizable engine, maybe like the base Mega engine, or even MKIII 2's engine. Stuff like the collision boxes for the tops, as well as some of the button inputs getting dropped. It really destroyed my fun of the stage. But I do like the design, it's just the fact that it loses out in terms of fun. Oh sure, levels should adhere and understand the limitations of the base engine they're working on, but I just find it so sad that this stage could be so much better, but it's really let down by the engine itself and its issues, more so than the design. Oh well, let's fight the boss now. Well, this is interesting. We were taught earlier with the orange force beams that we shouldn't blow up those holes, otherwise we'll basically kill ourselves. And I did like the combination of enemies and gimmicks near the end, where we first were introduced to the spinning tops in a safe environment, then a more dangerous environment, then we combined enemies with them near the end, and all of the enemies and gimmicks were introduced in a safe enough environment. And for the second half of the stage we were also introduced to the orange force beams, and a more dangerous configuration of the red force beams, at least to get players in the gear and understand what's coming up. Honestly, I think I like Crash Me Some Slack more than this stage. This is still a fine traditional level in terms of design and creativity, but it loses out in terms of fun and functionality. Third up is Get Your Rear in Gear Mach 3 by DerelictAllstar, 153 plays and a score of 47. So I suppose this level was featured in the most popular queue, so good work DerelictAllstar. Glad to see you reach that milestone. just like Parada Pateta did earlier. It's always nice to see regulars on this LP series getting on the most popular list, or the trending list as I like to call it. It really showcases how well they progressed. So judging by DerelictAllstar's previous stages, this will be a traditional level. The design kinda reminds me of Metal Man's stage. We have Heatman's team, Time Man's background I think, we have the conveyor belts from Metal Man of course, and batons. Mega Buster and Time Slow. I haven't tried sliding. Okay, we have Mega Man 3 physics because I can't charge. Should I go for that E-Tank? Sure, why not? It may be useful in the future. I don't know how tough the boss fight will be. It may be much tougher than the previous two levels. I'm just damage boosting through that blocky. Because I don't have access to the charge shot, I have to do it the classic way of defeating the blockies. Meaning I have to shoot it, wait for it to reform, and rinse and repeat. As you see over here. Maybe using this wasn't the best option. The time slow, that is. Maybe it'll be useful in a future segment of the stage. This would be a lot more useful if I had access to the charge shot. Good checkpoint placement. This definitely feels like a traditional level, especially in terms of difficulty, because the previous level, even though it was a traditional level, where you didn't need to use the Mega Buster, where you didn't need to use special weapons, and everything was introduced in a safe environment and recombined, this one feels a lot more in terms of the classic NES difficulty. Although I really wish I had access to the charge shot. The blockies kind of slow down the pace of this stage. That's why I would like to have the charge shot. If I had the Sniper Joes instead or another shielded enemy type, then I wouldn't want the charge shot as much. I wouldn't need it basically. So close. The gear just nicked me over there. That's the only real problem of the stage, I'd say, the overabundance of blockies, but that's still a minor complaint. Or if I had another special weapon, like an explosive one, or one that dealt more damage per shot, then I wouldn't need a charge shot either. Also the fact that when Blocky gets destroyed for the first time, it's a little bit hard to dodge where his shots will come. Oh, hello there, big guy. Well, I guess we're going down here. I understand what this stage is going for, based off the tile set. I guess this is a clock tower of sorts, and we're going on the gears and whatever else. Hence why I have a combination of Metal Man's tile set, as well as Time Man's tile set. That's neat. I'm not gonna take the risk and go down well, okay, I could have gone down over there. I thought it would just lead to a bottomless pit, but nope, it's just spikes. Of course you could just hold hard right and it wouldn't be a problem. Oh goody, these things now. Yoku blocks. And batons. A neat combination. The checkpoint frequency is getting increased now. I do approve of that. Oh, it's because there's an enemy right over here. Or the boss. Okay, this is where the time slow is useful, because it slows down Metal Man's attacks, but not his invulnerability frames. Let's hope I don't die against him. That'll be a little bit embarrassing. Well, I have 2 or 1 more use. Okay, one more use now. Well, that was the end of Get Your Rear in Gear Mach 3. A pretty neat clock tower stage. In some ways felt like a fusion of Metal Man stage and Time Man stage, although I would like the crushers or whatever those swinging objects were, the swinging maces in Time Man stage to be here, but they're not in the engine. This was a pretty well designed traditional level, so for that alone I will give it a thumbs up. Good work as always, DerelictAllstar. Alright, fourth on the lineup is Oil Snowboard by Lipatio, 24 plays and a score of 2. Judging by the name, this will probably be a special weapons oriented stage / precision based challenge level. Because all of Lipatio's levels were all precision based challenge levels to a certain degree, although some were more difficult than others. So for that reason alone, I will be mostly silent for this level. Because even though these levels start out pretty easy, they become fiendishly difficult near the end. At least half of them. So I'll only be talking once I reach each checkpoint, finish a difficult segment, or find something of interest. Well, that first segment was pretty interesting, although that last jump could be a little bit of a problem if you're not careful. Wow, that was a pretty tight one. Thankfully there's a checkpoint right over here, and I see we're doing aqua surfing now. Well, I'm sorry Lipatio, but I cannot complete this stage. After dying 3 dozen times off screen, I decided that's enough. This stage is definitely not designed for me. It's on the harder side of precision-based challenge levels, and as I repeatedly stated in this LP, I do not like the harder precision-based challenge levels, due to my own lack of skill and the engine's limitations. Sure, I like the stage up to here, but then it started asking too much of me over here, especially this segment alone with the jumps. And then it gets worse with these types of jumps here. So at the very end, as you can see here, I would have liked the checkpoint to break it up in between, but like I said, this stage is very likely not designed for me in mind. It's designed for more pro players. But as it stands right now, I can't really support the stage. My apologies. But I do like how the challenges are incrementally getting more difficult, and the checkpoint placement is, I suppose, okay, but this is not designed for my type of playstyle. It's designed more specifically for players who want a challenge, a precision-based challenge that is. And the boss fight at the end, where you have to use the oil slider to repeatedly ram against Iceman while not falling into spikes, seems like a pretty neat encounter. But unfortunately, as this level is not designed for me, it destroyed its fun score and I can't properly evaluate it in terms of design, so I will not downvote it or upvote it. Fifth on the lineup is a Floresta Bipolar by Lipatio, 3 plays at a score of 0. I believe this translates to English as the Bipolar Forest or something. Let's hope it wasn't as punishing as the previous level. Okay, we have a whole bunch of special weapons. And we had that big eye. Oh, that was a mistake. So I keep going forward, keep sliding so I don't get killed by these lines of octopus batteries. Oh, I see. Nope, I can't freeze these ones. Nope, no charge kick sliding here. Just jumping. Well, I just have the option to make these challenges a bit easier if I want. Okay, these ones we can freeze, I think. Hopefully there's a checkpoint nearby. Not yet, it seems. Well, that's one way of making this a lot easier. This would be a fine spot for a checkpoint. After all, good, there is a checkpoint here. As I was saying, the more difficult the stage is, the more checkpoint frequency there should be. It's a common trend I've repeatedly stated throughout this LP series, and some level authors get it more than others. It does take training to understand how many checkpoints there should be, because the more checkpoints there are, the easier the stages become. But it makes them less punishing. Also, thank goodness those fire bars were off screen so I could stand on them. Otherwise I'd be dead there. I should have waited and used Eye Slasher there. I guess I jump down here. Or slide down here. And we went in, we entered from the west side forest, we entered a cavern, and now we're in an iced over forest. It would have made more sense if the forest background was frosted over as well, but we don't have this in this engine yet. Also, thank goodness I can kill off the blockies with a charge shot. Yeah, this stage is a lot easier than the previous one. This seems to be focusing a lot more on enemy-based challenges rather than environmental challenges like the previous level did. I know, I'm supposed to use topspin here, but I didn't want to risk anything. Now, topspin time. Come on, let's move. I was half worried I was gonna fall into the spikes there. Okay, Ice Slasher. Completely fail. I probably should be restarting at the checkpoint here because I'm so low on health. Okay, let's try this again. I think I should use Time Slow first. And now use Ice Slasher. Still a bit too high. Don't worry, I have multiple attempts and there's a large weapon pickup anyway. There we go. Now I should be able to make it. Probably the blocks on the top left should be reversed or something. And now we're entering the snowy tundra. Well, I guess it makes sense because we were in a snowy forest, now we're in the full tundra environment. Surprisingly enough, the floor isn't slippery anymore. That's odd. Oh, that's how you dodge it. And that's how they become completely immune. This is a little bit janky, but I guess it works. There aren't any slopes in this engine. Okay, this sort of challenge. Oh no. I see what they want here. This is a topspin jumping challenge. This was a lot easier than I expected because there are a lot of spare batons over there. It could have been a lot more worse with a lot less batons. I decided the damage was off of there because I wasn't sure if there was a ceiling or something, an invisible ceiling. Thankfully, Lipatio isn't one of the more jerkish otters, so there isn't an invisible ceiling there. And all the damage boosting I'm doing here is more of my fault in the first place. Oh, I see this trick. This is the same trick that Parasect pulled earlier. I'm glad to see that more level otters are doing the same thing. Oh, I see. There we go. So it's a little bit a harder version to do other than Parasect's one. And there's a checkpoint here in case you die. And the floor is suddenly slippery again. This is gonna be a slight problem. I want to slow down time so the fire bars don't suddenly respawn. Oh no. I don't know how I did that in my first attempt, but thank goodness. The checkpoint should have been after that spike challenge because it's so difficult to do the one block wide jumps. I've complained about it enough in this engine's hitboxes, and I can't understate it enough. The spikes are a lot larger in all of the Mega Maker variants, and some more of a problem with this one due to the button input issues I've been mentioning. Will this work? Let's see. Yes, it does, thank goodness. I guess. At least I wasn't assaulted by a froggy. I mean, I wasn't knocked off the platform. I guess this part of the segment of the stage is forcing us to use the top spin in order to make our way forwards. It is gradually getting more difficult, but it wasn't such an abrupt increase in difficulty compared to Oil's Snowboard was. Oh, goody, now we have invisible water too. I didn't realize players could do it, but I guess water is blue and the background's blue too. Once again, thank you off-screen generators. This is one of those stages where I really wish there were some E and M tanks. This is the perfect stage to have these. Time slow time. Oh. Oops. I see what they want me to do there. I need to use Time Slow and Ice Slasher to slow down the fire doll, the tackle fires, so I can toss spin jump my way across. Well, we are combining 3 special weaponry, so that's nice. Let's hope I can actually make it though. Or I could do something like this. I don't even need to freeze them. I just overtunk it a bit. Another instance of this. I could potentially do it using this a top spin, but this is a lot safer using the Ice Slasher combined with the top spin. I don't think activating the time slow is a good idea though. Especially because I could potentially fall into a bottomless pit. What happened there? I was directly bouncing off of that octopus battery. Keep holding right and go forward so you don't end up embedded into the ceiling spikes. This was a lot easier than I expected. And I do like there's always these indicators of what you should be using based off of those boxes. I guess top spin? I guess so. Oh no, I'm dead. I wasn't fast enough, so it resulted in my death over there. That's how you get past that challenge. Is this it? Is this the end of this stage? This kind of feels like a marathon level in some way because of how long it is relative to the difficulty. Okay, for this projectile gauntlet we have to use the plant barrier, I guess. Or just keep sliding. And time to fight Plant Man in a frosty environment. What's your weakness? I guess it's then the Firestorm. Yep, it's the Firestorm. There's no risk of falling into a bottomless pit though. That I really appreciate. Alas, that's the end of a Floresta Bipolar. A pretty neat special weapons oriented stage / challenge level, although as I repeatedly stated, I liked it a lot more than Oil Snowboard. Especially because it had a more gradual difficulty curve from easy to a medium difficulty challenge level. And I did like how it well utilized the time slow, Ice Slasher, and top spin in creative fashions, although some other special weapons like the plant barrier were only used in one situation. Maybe put one or two more segments where they can have some time to shine. Plus the Firestorm was only used for Plant Man's weakness, but I don't mind it. So good work, Lipatio. So overall, my favorite level in this part would probably be Get Your Rear in Gear Mach 3. It was a pretty neat clock tower stage that combined Metal Man's tileset with Time Man's tileset. I liked the traditional aesthetic, and I liked how it ramped up the difficulty. Fragile Man would also be an honorable mention if the engine didn't bring it down. And my second honorable mention would be a Floresta Bipolar for the aforementioned reasons that I just described. So in the next part, I'll be covering the next viewer submitted level, as well as a bunch of levels that I'll find in the most popular queue. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!